Hello, my cat loving friends. I am really excited today. We have Brianna, call her Bree, Lovell Myers, and she is the executive director of the United Spay Alliance. And they do a lot. Want to talk about spay and neuter, why it's important, how, why, when, how can you get involved? There's a lot to unpack here. So we will be back after a word from our sponsor. Welcome back to 19 Cats and Counting. I am your co-host, Linda Hall, back with my gorgeous BFF, who I was riding alone for the last two podcasts. I missed you
It's
so
been a
much.
while. It's been a minute, right? It's been a
It's
minute.
been a minute. Welcome back, baby. I'm glad
Thank
you're back.
you. Thank you. And
It's
thank you, everybody, for all your well wishes on the loss of my parents. I really
yeah,
appreciate it.
had
Still
a rough
hard.
road
Still
there,
hard.
but yeah,
It's just still been a few months.
it's a journey. We got time, but
hmm
let's bring Bree in here and talk about some positive actions
Yeah,
that
one
we
of my
can
favorite
do to make the
topics,
world better.
spay neuter.
Yes. So first of all, thank
Yay.
you for joining us, Bree.
Yay.
No, thank
We
you so much for
appreciate
having me.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us basically about the United Spay Alliance. What is it that you do? What's the gist of this?
Yeah. So the organization exists really to promote spay and neuter. The mission is to promote affordable, accessible, and timely spay neuter services. And so I think if anyone has tried to make an appointment anytime recently to get their pet spayed or neutered, you've probably encountered, yep, long wait times. The cost of those services has gone up. And it's just become a more and more challenging landscape, especially. And so United Spay Alliance has been around honestly since like 20, I think it's 15. The organization has been around and it started with the idea of why don't we make it easy for folks to find services? And so it started with a directory of services state by state where people could
Nice.
find low cost providers. And since then, it has evolved and grown and come a long way. We saw kind of a renewed need for that, especially during the COVID pandemic. There
Yes.
were so many, I mean, so many things changed, but we know that the access to vet care has changed as a result of, the pandemic. So many clinics closed forever. Many have lost, the staff that they need to run those clinics. And so maybe the hours or the number of appointments they have available have changed. And so we saw there was a real need for us to kind of double down on our efforts to make that information available. And so one of
Yeah.
our core programs or the core things that we do is we have our spay neuter directory. And that's a great place for folks to kind of start. You can go and you can click on your state and you'll pull up a landing page just for your state of everything that
Nice.
we have found in your neck of the woods, as it were. To help you find low cost services. And then, we branched out into TNR programs, into pet food programs, and so many other resources that might be helpful to someone who's also looking for low cost spay neuter.
It didn't even dawn on me that some of the clinics closed during the pandemic and didn't reopen.
And at the very
Unfortunately,
least,
that's
we're
a
held up.
yeah, yeah, it's been an unfortunate tale, and I've heard it in all parts of the country. That I've heard of wait times up to 3 to 6 months. I have heard where the, high volume clinic closed because they couldn't find a veterinarian. I've heard of clinics
Oh,
closing because they can't
Yes.
find techs. It's been difficult. Some places have been really, really impacted. We're
mhm.
starting to see more places, I think, are finding a normal or a new normal. But I know that there are definitely still many communities that are still struggling.
I know. We had a cat appear in our backyard. What do you do? Bring her in. Whose bedroom is she going in till we can get her spayed? And I reached out to my vet that I always use. And yeah, we had a horrible wait. They had, because of COVID, to change all of their practices. So they were, call, wait, somebody comes out, gets all of those extra steps took up so much time that they could see less clients in a day. And it backed everything up. And I had a female cat go into heat upstairs, screaming
Yeah.
her head off, ticked off all my males, and although they are neutered, several of them started spraying. I mean, we were in chaos over here over this little girl's
Oh my
estrogen.
goodness.
Buddy, that's that.
Yeah, that
It was,
was bad. That was bad.
yeah. And you had mentioned earlier that you are doing a training coming up in February to work with vets to teach this high volume. So we recently rescued a couple months ago three little boy kittens, neonate, shouldn't have been separated. One of those things I didn't want to do, but I did it to save their lives. And I'm like, yeah, unlike when I took in Soot, I'm like, I can't afford for three neuters. So I looked around and found myself a low cost. It was a wait. I had to wait a lot longer than I wanted to. And we're playing with, the sooner the better, the less incidents of spraying, etc. But I'll tell you, when we went to pick the kittens up, a truck came, a truck with stacked carriers. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
That was a
I don't know
TNR
how
initiative,
many
right?
cats they did that
Hmm.
day, but basically the rescue has X number that has been brought in that need to be done, and then they open it up to the public and say we can fit in this many. And so
Mhm.
we actually got the last three spots on that, but that was impressive.
Yeah, these clinics are really, really impressive. And so one of our programs is we do encourage high quality, high volume spay neuter. And it's been part of the vernacular shift or just the way we talk, because I think there's a perception out there that when you say low cost spay neuter, that some people assume that that must mean low quality, that there's some corners being cut, that there's some reason that these appointments are
That
so,
used to be
you know,
true. That used to be true.
right. Right. And I think
Associated.
once upon a time, maybe, however, today, when we think about these clinics, what we're actually talking about is very high quality, very efficient procedures. And it's the efficiency of every step of that process. And it's
Mhm.
really the efficiency of the veterinarians and their surgical techniques that are making them so much. I mean, when we increase efficiency, we're just going to naturally increase our ability to do, more in a day, so to speak. And so you're able to adjust those numbers accordingly. And so what we're getting are techniques that have been refined over and over and over again over decades now of surgeons who have been doing these, of, vet clinics and teams that have been doing this work. So we're seeing very efficient, very safe procedures for the cats, for the dogs who are going through. I mean, if you just think about it, like the surgeons who start out with a cat spay and their incision is, maybe 4 inches long. And then once they have like high quality, high volume spay neuter techniques under their belt, they're walking away with the incision site that's, an inch long. Think about
Yeah.
yourself, do you want an incision that is
Yes. Yes, please.
this big or,
Linda
much
knows
smaller?
she's
So
been spayed.
I have, indeed.
oh, God.
Hide it, make it as small as possible. Thank you. Yes. And they didn't
But
just do the neuter, like they checked their ears, they checked for fleas. I don't know. I mean, like it was like a 12-hour span, like drop them
How
off at
much
6
did
a.m.,
you have
pick them
to
up at
pay?
6 p.m., $100 a piece for each boy.
That's that's
So
not too bad. It's
it
a
and
little
wasn't,
that
more than it costs here, but you're in a
it
different
was a
state.
lot better than the vet cost.
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
So
yes, yes, yes.
I'm just curious, what was your vet, like the private practice vet quoting you for that? Did you ask?
yeah, it was going to be almost $200 per kitten. So
That's
I was
so
pretty
For
much
an
cutting it in half.
crazy.
for a
My vet
neuter.
doesn't charge
Yeah,
that.
for a neuter. Yeah.
And
Crazy.
we have heard just pricing with private practice vets. And now when you're going to private practice or a general practice, generally they're not doing spays and neuters very often, right? And so it is more of a specialty procedure for them. And so
Right.
they're not going to have the same efficiency and the same practice with doing these
Mm.
surgeries. So again, speaking to why when you go to someone who focuses just on spays and neuters and why that procedure is going to be different.
Yeah.
But when you're at a general practice, yeah, we've heard definitely of them charging 200, 300. New York City pricing
It's
is outrageous. They're paying over $500. And so,
That's why
uh,
people don't do it then. My vet's $75 for a neuter and 100 for a spay. I don't know about dogs because that goes by weight, but they dedicate a whole day. That's all they do on, I think it's Wednesdays, the
Dating.
spay neuter.
Yeah.
that's terrific. And that's a great way to do it. And that's a great way for, you don't have, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And so one of the things that we try to do is show veterinarians different kinds of models that they can, if they wanted to increase spay and neuter or increase their ability to offer these appointments, what are different, ways to dip your toe in the water without doing it all, right? You don't have to
Yeah.
become, a high quality, high volume clinic, but you
Yeah.
could maybe dedicate one day a week,
Yeah.
or, you could share your private practice. If you're closed on the weekends, you could see if there's a partnership to be had with a nonprofit that you could partner up to do a clinic on a one weekend, one day, one Saturday a month or something.
We hope
Um,
that's our future.
right?
Yes, absolutely. And I want to tell you, I know we're getting close to where we need to take a break, but
We
definitely
got
when we
about
come
5 minutes.
back, oh, all right. Well, let's jump into a little bit about why. And I'll tell you something, behaviorist session last month, I think. Lady's got a really tough situation on her hands, took in this cat, not working out of the house. The cat's got a lot of behavior issues. And she tried to rehome this cat. She can't find, everybody's full. All of the rescues are full. All of the shelters are full.
They are.
No one is adopting. Everyone is surrendering. And so she's got this cat back segregated. We're trying to work with her through it and get her to her place. But yeah, petrified, can't find anywhere to put this cat. And fortunately, we can work it through this with behavioral techniques. But what if she was terminally ill or being ousted from her home for some reason? I mean, there are valid reasons why you have to surrender, and we can't get the cats in.
That is, I mean, we can't talk about spay and neuter without talking about the fact that we have an intake problem. There aren't enough places for all the animals to go.
I know we're
Um,
always turning down because we're full.
Mhm.
right? Rescues are full, shelters are full, and the people who work in them feel terribly that they can't help every single animal. But
I
the
know.
reality is that we just don't have the resources. And the only way that is ever going to change is if more people choose to spay and neuter their pets. We need more widespread access to
Totally
affordable
agree.
spay and neuter services.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I completely agree with that. I mean, the whole prevent these kittens from being born so we don't have such a glut of cats and kittens, puppies
And
too.
nowhere for them to go.
But cats
Right.
seem to be a bigger problem because cats go out and wander around the neighborhood. People let their own cats wander around, not spayed, not neutered, having babies.
Mhm.
And there's just no reason for that.
Right. I mean, we talk about one of the things that we talk about at United Spay Alliance is imagine if there were no kitten season. We talk every spring, well, unless you're in a warmer climate, but
There's
typically
not a
every,
kitten season here. It's all year.
Right,
I was
there's
gonna
here.
say, I know that in the South, maybe you're thinking kitten what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But for the rest of us, that spring season tends to be like, oh God, it just means so many kittens.
Yep.
And I understand kittens are adorable, but the reality is that we just collectively don't have enough resources to help all of them.
It's so true.
Fosters are full, shelters are full, like we're just talking about. But we could see a future where there isn't a kitten season if we had more spay and neuter. And that is for cats who live outside, and that is for owned cats. It is for everybody to really see the numbers in a community, change as far as the population of cats. We know that we have to have a very high percentage of owned cats
Hmm.
spayed and neutered in addition to any TNR that's happening.
Yes.
And that's what's really going to make a dent in the population. And
Yeah.
then if we free up those just think of it, all the resources that go in just to like trying to tread water and keep your head
Yes.
above water.
Yes.
If we were to spay and neuter and see a future where, we had more time to spend with the animals that truly need our help, more resources to give those cats and kittens who are coming to us, and that we actually have the space, the mental bandwidth,
Yeah.
and the
There might
actual
actually be homes
tangible
available.
resources. Right. And imagine that if we
Yes.
could put our resources toward that rather than
Yes.
just trying to get through day after day
Yes.
after day.
Yes.
We need to take a break here to hear from our awesome sponsor, but we'll be right back to talk more about spay and neuter and why it matters to you. We'll be right back. And we're back with 19 cats and counting. One of the reasons that The reason the show is named 19 Cats is when we started it, I had 19 cats in my sanctuary. I now have 18. That's just because the number goes up, down, up, down. And Linda
Yeah.
has 12 of our cats, and we wouldn't have this many if people would spay neuter.
Yeah. I
And
don't want 12 cats.
huh?
I love every cat in my
Oh,
house,
I do too.
but
I
I
would
do
never get rid
not
of
want
any
to
of them.
have 12 cats.
But don't you sometimes think, Linda, when you have this many, you have to like pay attention to them in groups, and not every cat gets
Hard.
special one-on-one
That's
attention.
awful.
I mean, they're
That's
happy,
awful.
but these people that if they're going to let their cats outside, there's no excuse to let them outside intact. That's just laziness, in my opinion. Uh-oh,
I
silence.
think
Did
we
I hit a
also have to
nerve?
acknowledge that there is no, I think it's just we've talked a bit about the challenges of accessing affordable care, and there's so many communities where that is just still not a reality. And so I think we still have work to do as far as making sure people can, I mean, because if you have like, I mean, you mentioned that you were paid $100 for a neuter. So if we're thinking about someone who has 10 cats in, their backyard, I mean, that adds up real fast,
It
if they're all
does.
neuters. Spays are usually more, like so that kind of gets out of control. And
Mm.
right now with our research, I actually tell our folks who help us update our directory when we say low cost, we kind of talk about the number being more around $150 because that threshold is just so, it keeps going up and up and up what low cost means depending on where you live. And
Yeah.
so I think absolutely we want people to spay and neuter, but we also, have to make sure we're doing as much as we can to make that affordable, make it accessible for them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Somebody calls and says, I've got 10 cats in my backyard and they're having kittens, 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 and I can't afford to spay neuter them all. Um, looking for a rescue that will help, our TNR initiative
Mhm.
that will help. I think they're more willing to help if they're able to put the cats back out in their habitat and not have to take them in and find them homes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Much
Well,
easier
for
and
sure. And yeah, and I think that's why, trap PNR programs are a huge resource, and because I've also been in the situation of like, oh, now I have 6 cats in my house, and this isn't what I had envisioned for myself, but here we are.
Yes,
absolutely.
we're living that.
Absolutely. Yes. And I
Yeah.
think it's important to know too, as with anything, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? So I took in that cat I mentioned out of my backyard. And maybe
Soot.
a month later, I found her doppelganger out there, which I assume is probably her sister from the same litter. And I called Rita and I cried and I said, it's like pushing back the ocean. I got one, but I missed one. And then she said that one cat over X number of years could be responsible for what is it like
It
two
was
million?
like 2 million
It was a
kittens
ridiculous
over
amount.
a 8 year
So,
period.
yes. So be grateful for what you did, right? Get the one. If that's all you can get the one.
At least get that
Absolutely.
one, right?
Hmm.
So talk a little bit about the training that goes on. How can veterinarians get involved in learning how to do efficient spays and neuters?
So one of our programs, it's we talked a little before about high quality, high volume spay neuter, and so
Mhm.
that's the HQHVSN. So if you're out and you see that in the wild, that's what that refers to. But it's these techniques that are being used to do a high number of surgeries in a very safe, very efficient way. And so it's not necessarily the same thing that folks are learning in vet school. But most vets aren't really getting exposure to spay and neuter surgeries while they're still in vet school.
I
They
see.
might graduate with 1 or 2 surgeries under their belt unless they have gone out of their way to pursue a shelter medicine or do some sort of work in that more spay neuter clinic setting.
Right.
But our trainings are aiming to change that. We are making these trainings, our goal is to make these trainings as homegrown as possible. We want it to be easy for veterinarians to attend. Are working directly with organizations or clinics that are right there in the community. We are basically we're facilitating, but it's really the folks on the ground who are doing all the work
Sure.
to put the team together and put the training together so that veterinarians have the chance to learn from their peers what these spay and neuter techniques look like. And we do our best to create a very safe environment for them to learn.
Nice.
Because I've also heard from veterinarians who might want to get involved, but they aren't necessarily able to just go volunteer at a like spay neuter clinic because they just aren't fast enough yet. They don't know how to do the same thing that these other high quality, high volume surgeons are doing. And so these trainings offer them an opportunity to learn
That's
these
amazing.
techniques.
Well, and I
And
know
so
we
we are having, oh, sorry, I was
go
just
ahead.
going to
No,
say
you're
that we
good.
were we're having another clinic coming up on February 22nd, our first on the West Coast. So shout out to the Feral Cat Coalition of Oregon. So we're
Nice.
excited about that.
Nice. I'll tell you, we had two places, Rescue Friends of Felines and our Humane Society that used to do them. Our Humane Society lost their vet, and I can only imagine how burnt out somebody gets from doing these
I'm
regularly.
sure.
But my town started something a year or two ago that I was really impressed with. They twice a year, you call them and say, I have ferals in my backyard. They drop traps off. You call them when the trap is sprung, they pick it up. Twice a year, a vet comes in and does a mass spay and neuter, and
Nice.
they return the cats back to where they came from. Is it going to completely solve the problem twice a year? No, but it is going to take a huge dent out of it. And you get one vet to say he'll do one a year and one to say he'll do the other, or one vet says he'll do two a year, and it's not such a huge burden, right? I was kind of really impressed with them for coming up with that.
No, that is huge. I think every little bit counts. And if we all chip in, then many hands make light work, right? Isn't that what they say?
Absolutely. Yes,
Yes. Yes.
absolutely. Yes. Yes,
It
yeah,
is. It
really
feels
good.
insurmountable when you think about it overall. So you really have to take it and, do the small bits that you can, because everybody's effort together is the only thing that's really going to solve the problem.
Yeah,
Right. And there's
absolutely.
lots of ways. And if we talk about kind of the low-hanging fruit. And so what is everyone's individual entry point? And so if a veterinarian maybe they just want to knock out some neuters and you want to pick like a couple Tuesdays out of a month, and that is like you're gonna have a just neuter cats only, and then you're knocking out however many, in a day, because that's a pretty simple, quick procedure,
Yeah.
easy enough to do. You're
Yeah.
contributing to the cause, but it's not, the same as, again, not everyone has to be a brick and mortar spay neuter clinic to get the job done.
Right.
So there's lots of ways to tackle it. And so we encourage folks to think creatively.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
a neuter is like snip, snip. A spade is actual surgery.
Surgery. Yes. Yes. Basically a hysterectomy, right? So, yeah. So, okay. But so we know what we could do as vets. We know what we can do as communicate. What about just the individual? I'm 80. I'm not going to go outside and set traps. What
You're
can I
not
do?
80.
What can I? Well,
I know.
it's a metaphor. It's a whatever. Anyway, what can I do to help the situation, Bree?
So everyone can get involved by just talking with their friends, with their family, with their neighbors about the need to spay and neuter their pets. And so there's always a need to educate around that. I know some folks, we have seen kind of a shift in the conversation. And so I think we all, depending how old you are, you listen to Bob Barker tell you to spay and neuter your pets. And it seemed, when I was growing up, it just seemed kind of that's what you did. And it was kind of more normalized. And I think there has been a slight shift away from
Yeah,
that. And so we definitely encourage people to get back into the habit of talking about spay and neuter and why it matters, that
definitely.
these, animals individually lead such, healthier lives. Like we know that there's a reduction, for instance, in cats, especially if we are doing early age spay and neuter. We know that cats who are spayed early have, I think it's a 91% reduction in the rate of mammary cancer. So we see wonderful health benefits. We know behaviorally they're not going to be driving you up a
Yes.
wall, going into heat in your house.
Now,
Yes.
when people write to us for, they want to help with integration and one of the cats is not spayed or neutered, we tell them, get that cat spayed or neutered
Right.
and then come back to us because that might solve your problem.
There are rare reasons. I mean, Rita had a cat with ventral septal defect, a heart
Yeah,
defect, could not go
Sadie.
under surgery. So I always ask for what the reason is. But
My Sadie that I wrote
I
a book
have,
about.
yeah, Sadie. But I have heard from people like, we just don't want to make the baby get surgery. And it's like, really, it is, it's like, getting your kid a
Yeah.
shot or making him take an antibiotic or, you're doing what's best for them
I know when
and
I
best
was
for
growing
you.
up, though, they didn't do it wasn't a routine thing, in the 60s and 70s to do spay neuter. We never got our dog neutered. Of course,
Mhm.
our dog then fathered 12 puppies because the neighborhood dog who wasn't spayed came over to visit. Um, but I think, the people my age still have a lot of people, that mentality of not spaying and neutering because that's how it was when we were kids. Unless you work with it, you don't realize what a big issue it is.
And I think it's one of those things that the general public might not encounter until you run into it, until your
Yeah,
dog is pregnant with puppies that you were not counting on, until you're trying to find somewhere for that friendly cat that you found outside to go, and you realize that all the shelters are full.
I
Until
know.
until it's facing you head on, it might not be something that you directly have to understand or interact with. But our founder, Esther Meckler, did so much to promote the movement, spay neuter and
Yeah, we
normalize
know
it back,
Esther.
in
She's
the
awesome.
90s.
Yeah.
She's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I say that I am standing on the shoulders of giants. There's so many people like Esther who
Absolutely.
were there that have gotten us to this point, and I'm just trying to, keep carrying on and keep the mission alive. And so, they had the immense task of taking us from a culture where there wasn't any conversation about spay and neuter
Mhm.
to a point where it was pretty much a part of the mainstream conversation. Everyone
Yeah.
was talking about it. The big organizations were funding it. And it was just part of what was going on. And just again, with the pandemic and just other things that have happened, it seems like we need to start having that very real conversation again about, let's
Yeah.
start at the foundation. Let's talk about kind of the keystone of all access to care conversations, anything like that. It starts with spay neuter. It is the
Yeah.
foundation of prevention, and so many other things will be
Yes.
easier to solve once we have
And
widespread spay and neuter.
I will tell you as a behaviorist, when people say that their cats are spraying or urinating and defecating outside of the box, my first question is, have you noticed any community cats outside? Because people do not realize the impact those cats have on your home. So I know you've got a big initiative coming up in February, and it's the Feline Fix by Five. So I take it Fix by Five means by 5 months
5 months.
old.
5 months old. And so the fun fact that we always share is that kittens can get pregnant as young as four
Oh,
months old.
hmm.
And so the reality is that kittens are having kittens.
Yes.
And so the Feline Fix by Five campaign is one that we are really working to encourage veterinarians, especially private practice veterinarians, to talk about their clients or to talk with their clients about the best time to spay and neuter their kittens.
Yeah.
Because there's no, like, again, they're not really graduating vet school with this like black and white knowledge of this is it. But there was a task force that got together, veterinarians, and they reviewed the research and the recommendations and those recommendations have been endorsed by the AVMA, so the governing body of veterinarians here in the US. Um, that 5 months is the best time to spay and neuter, or before they hit
Yeah.
that 5 month
Yeah.
mark. And
Yeah.
so,
What
and
is too young to do a spay neuter? Like, what's the cutoff?
that is a very good question. And so in sheltering, we talk about 2 months, 2 pounds, or in the shelter rescue animal world that we're in, we talk about that 2 months, 2 pounds being kind of like the rule. Once they hit 2 pounds, they're old enough or safe enough to spay and neuter at that point. And that is great. And so if you're adopting from a shelter and you're getting that 8-week-old kitten,
Hmm.
you're gonna hopefully be getting them already spayed or neutered at that point. But if you have an owned cat, a lot of times, especially if it's an owned cat that's going to live inside, they're not necessarily going back out to a TNR colony. Then private practice vets might recommend, oh, you could wait till 6 months. Oh, they should have a heat cycle first, or some other thing that is just at this point, it's just outdated. But
Yes.
Yeah.
because the reality is they can be safely, more than safely, spayed or neutered by 5 months.
My
Yeah.
vet likes to wait for 4 months for females and as long as possible for the males. I mean, he'll do it earlier, but he won't do it any earlier than 4 months. 4 months, 4 pounds.
Well, I
I
think
guess
it's
that's just
important
his
with
preference.
shelters. Yeah, I think it's important with shelters and rescues because they need to get them sterilized so that they can be adopted out,
Well,
so that
they
they can
do
take in
those
more cats.
sooner, but
So
he means
I
like if
understand why
you or
those are
me
a little sooner,
go.
but yeah, exactly. Yeah, I waited till a little later with the boys. So
Mhm.
yeah, but
And
definitely before 5.
luckily, my vet works very closely with the Lancaster shelter here, because you can't adopt out any kittens or puppies till they're spayed or neutered here. That's the law. So he's got to do those earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah, and if you think about, the adoptability of a fluffy little 8-week-old kitten
Yes.
versus, a 4-month-old, still adorable, but
but not
I
quite
think,
Everybody
as
wants the itty bitty little
yeah,
kitty.
yeah.
infants over toddlers, right? The toddlers are
Except for
cute, but I want the
us.
infant.
I'm done with infants and
You
toddlers.
and
Give
me
me the
both.
old ones. I like the older
Yes,
kitties.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. But yeah,
But February is our time when we're really talking about the Feline Fix by 5 campaign. And I will say it is for veterinarians, but it's also for individuals. Again, it's important to just educate one another about the benefits of all this.
yeah,
So it's definitely, we're doing it in February, but it's a never-ending
you're right.
campaign.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. I always say if you hate cats and you're sick of them in your yard, digging up your flowers, walking on your new
Walking on your
car,
car.
then you need to care about this. If you love cats and care about the overpopulation and the suffering and the things that are happening, you should care about this. So
Mhm.
basically, everyone should care
Everyone
about
needs to be on board. I know we've got to wrap soon. Give us your website address, Bree, and when is this initiative happening?
Yeah, so you can find out more about us at unitedspayalliance.org. And then actually, if you go to
Okay.
felinefixby5.org, you can go directly to that landing page. We have all sorts of resources. We have a whole media kit, so there's like share graphics and videos and some like
Nice.
great talking points and stuff like that. That's just really easy to pull and share and use as much as you like. Again, we want people talking about it. We want people sharing this information and to make it easy to do that. And so felinefixby5.org has all that for you. February is our big awareness month. It's where we're really asking as many folks as possible to, get the conversation out there, trying to turn up the volume on this message a little bit. But again, there's never a wrong time to talk about the best
You're
times
getting
to be
ready for
neutered as
kitten
kittens.
season. A little pre-kitten
Yes,
season
it.
advertising. Please spay
exactly.
and neuter, prevent those
Pretty
kittens.
please,
Absolutely.
pretty please.
And if you are one of those humans that I talk to every day that has a cat, you know they need to be spayed or neutered. You really can't afford it right now. Your vet's saying blah, blah, blah. Then you need to go to unitedspayalliance.org, find your state. I guarantee you're going to find something, if not close, reasonable, where
I
you
know
can
there's
go and
one in
save a lot of
Charlotte
money.
that's
There's a
$25.
lot. I've
But
had
they only
people.
do it at certain times, so you really have to
Yeah,
check.
you have to get on the list and go when they're going. They're not doing these every day, but yeah, get the information and get on the list.
Yeah, yeah. Seek
It's an
us out. We
amazing
are here to
resource.
help you. Whatever we can do to help you get that spay or neuter appointment. That's what we
Well,
are
we
here to do.
appreciate it. It's an
Yes,
amazing
take
resource.
advantage of them, their
As someone who
knowledge.
just took advantage with
Free,
the
yeah.
3 boys.
Hopefully we're done with kittens, but you just never know when they're going to cross our path. We really cater more to the older cats.
Yeah.
Um,
If their
but
lives hadn't been in danger, they wouldn't be in my house. I didn't want kittens. I was
right,
done with kittens,
they
but
were definitely in danger.
it
So
happened.
so they're part of our sanctuary now. Any last words for us, Bree?
Just again, never wrong time to talk about spay and neuter. I think if we really talk about to us, it's all about prevention and the idea that we can prevent overcrowding, we can prevent full shelters, we can prevent compassion fatigue from people who are making difficult decisions day in and day
Mhm.
out. And the answer to all of that comes down to spay and neuter.
Well, awesome. I hope you'll come back again. We'll definitely add your websites to our reference list.
Yeah,
Linda, thank you for holding down the fort when I couldn't do podcasts, and also for helping me out. And you know what I mean.
you got it.
And of course, I have to thank Mark Winter for giving us this opportunity on Pet Life Radio. Thank you so much. And remember, every day is Catter Day. We'll see you next time.